Welcome to this episode of the Harpreet Singh Show. In today's segment, we are going to talk on a very important topic which is a concern for a lot of people. The increasing debris in the oceans is a major concern, and what is being done to reduce that? And especially the increasing plastic in the oceans. What is being done and what can be done? I have two guests today to talk on this topic, Karen Wristen from Living Oceans and Nikhil Prakash, who is a student at Burnaby North. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll start off with you, Karen, and how serious is this problem of the debris in the ocean, and especially the plastics?
It's becoming extremely serious in all the oceans in the world, but in the North Pacific, there's a huge area in the middle of the ocean they call the North Pacific Garbage Patch, and it's full of plastics that are breaking down over time into smaller and smaller pieces. And they are extremely dangerous for the creatures in the marine environment because they don't know it's plastic, they think it's food. So many kinds of creatures are eating them. These plastics build up toxins. They attract the poisons that are in the water, and they stick to the plastic. So every creature that eats them is getting a super load of toxins, DDT, PCBs, all the nasty things that we make that get into the water. One of the most heartbreaking ones you see, though, is the marine birds. When they fly along, they're surface feeders, and they're looking for things floating on the top. And so they see these bottle caps especially, and they think that's really good food because brightly colored, floating on the top. So they pick up these bottle caps, they go back and feed them to their chicks. And you see these awful pictures of dead chicks on the beach, and you just see the rib cage, and it's crammed full of bottle caps. It's died because it's full of plastic. So this kind of thing, I mean, we just have to stop it. So we've been doing some work at Living Oceans on cleaning up beaches.
We'll talk about
around
what
here.
all is being done, but basically, where is this all plastic coming from? Is it the one which is being used in the oceans, or from the shore, shores also it is coming over there?
A little bit of both, but mostly it's coming from land.
Okay.
If you think about it, the ocean is downhill from just about anywhere. So whatever anybody drops on the street gets eventually into a water course somewhere, and it gets washed to sea by the rain. And it's not just happening in Canada, it's happening all over the world. So we've got plastics entering the ocean currents, and they're swirled around in the ocean currents until finally they wind up in this gyre where the sun and the seawater start to break them down into little bits.
Okay.
So it makes a real toxic soup out there.
So while organizations like Living Oceans or David Suzuki Foundation or environmental friendly organizations are talking about these issues, are the governments concerned about it?
You know, the governments are pretty hands-off. It's international waters. You'd need an international agreement to deal with it. And it's very low on the totem pole of issues right now. So it doesn't seem anyone's doing anything about it at a government level.
Okay. Nikhil, how about you? How did you get interested into this project, what you have initiated?
Well, our organization is Youth for TAP, and how we started is back in a couple years ago, we realized that our school had a couple programs for like recycling, where we'd have clubs that pick up balls around the school after school. But then what we realized was there's not much focus on reducing and reusing. So there's a real gap there that we needed to fill. So we started Youth for TAP, and what we did was we created awareness on how using a plastic bottle is really bad for the environment and it's costly. And instead there's alternative solutions such as a metal bottle you can use, and we promote it around our school. And then we also got the school board to install water fountains, filtered water fountains all across high schools in Burnaby.
And when you talk to the youngsters, as far as seniors are concerned, probably not many are interested in these kind of talks. What about the youngsters? Are they taking interest in environment?
When we go to elementary schools, we have a project called Project Flow. And like Karen said, a lot of these animals get affected. So we try to strike a chord with them by showing them pictures of these animals who are eating these bottle caps. And they don't really realize that by using a plastic bottle, that animals are dying. But when we show them these things and videos and pictures, they really connect to it, and they realize themselves that they should stop using plastic bottles.
Okay. So I'll talk to you in details about what all has been done. But before that, when you talked about the international waters, because it is an international territory, so United Nations, or has any governments or any organizations approached the United Nations that something needs to be done on this particular topic, because it's going to be a major constraint for everyone?
Yes, there's been some work done, but you know, it moves so slowly through the United Nations. It takes years to put an agreement together. And it's going to be very costly to clean this up. At the moment, we don't really know even if it can be done, much less how or where the money is going to come from. So the main thing is to stop the plastic getting into the ocean right now if we can.
So what is being done by Living Oceans to propagate this message, and how can the common person be a part of this movement?
Well, We started a marine debris program this year in the north part of Vancouver Island where our head office is. And we're going out and cleaning up specific areas of beach where the plastics have come to shore already.
Okay.
We're getting quite a lot this year because of the tsunami debris coming from Japan. This is probably the first year that large quantities of stuff are coming in, and we're seeing huge amounts of styrofoam on beaches. So we're working with the local populations where they can get to the beaches.
Right.
But then, because we're a science-based organization and we're really more concerned about the places people can't get to, that creatures depend on, we're also trying to do some cleanups on more remote areas like the Scott Islands, which is an important seabird refuge,
Okay.
and more remote places on the west coast of Vancouver Island where we have special refuges for nature. So the way people can help, boy, we could sure use some donations to help us with that program because it's expensive. We have to hire boats to go out there and crew them for days at a time so that we can get the plastics, and then we've got to ship them all back in and get them to a recycling center. So it's pretty labor intensive, and we could sure use some help.
How can organizations like the one which Nikhil has started, what do you feel the future, and these kind of organizations and the awareness being created amongst the youngsters, can that make some dent into this?
It makes a huge difference. You know, when they first started recycling programs in cities, I take Vancouver here, the people in the city offices actually thought that people would never recycle.
Right.
And they were most skeptical, but it was an organization called the Society Promoting Environmental Conservation that actually got it all started. And as soon as people were given the chance to do the right thing, they did it. And they did it in numbers that the city had never imagined would happen. Exactly the same thing will happen here with what Nikhil's doing. The more kids can make that connection he was talking about between what I do and the impact in the environment, we're going to see huge changes in behavior over time, I'm sure.
Great. So Nikhil, how do you do it? Now basically when you are going and talking to the youngsters and telling them don't use plastic bottles, go in for bottles which are metal bottles, or so how is the response which you are getting, and also how are you further trying to involve the elders, especially the high school students, into this?
Well, we try to do two different kind of methods to deal with elementary school kids and high school kids. For the high school kids, we show a documentary and our little videos for people that want more information about where the plastic goes. But we also do events that they like. For example, we do a tap water versus bottled water taste test, so a double-blind taste test in our school. And then the people who say that bottled water tastes better than tap water, they see the results and they see that there is really no difference between the taste between the two. So we try to do that with the high school kids, but for the elementary school kids, it's more of like an emotional connection with it.
So make them explain them out what's happening.
Exactly.
I'd like to learn a little bit more about this, but let's go for a small break, and when we come back, especially the water which we are drinking in plastic bottles, and we are also hearing that it's not good for health if it is kept in the car and heat goes. We'll talk a little bit about it after this break.
ਘਰ ਇੱਕ ਐਸੀ ਥਾਂ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਹਰ ਕੋਈ ਆਪਣੀ ਨਿੱਜੀ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਦੇ ਸੁਨਹਿਰੀ ਪਲ ਯਾਦ ਰੱਖਦਾ ਹੈ। ਉਹ ਜਗ੍ਹਾ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਉਹ ਰਹਿੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਪਿਆਰ ਭਰਿਆ ਜੀਵਨ ਬਤੀਤ ਕਰਦਾ ਹੈ। ਇਹ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਹੀ ਪੂਰੀਆਂ ਹੁੰਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਜਦ ਕਿਸੇ ਜਗ੍ਹਾ ਨੂੰ ਸਜੇ ਹੋਏ ਘਰ 'ਚ ਬਦਲਿਆ ਜਾਵੇ। ਨਵੇਂ ਘਰਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਫਰੇਮਿੰਗ ਤੋਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਫਿਨਿਸ਼ਿੰਗ ਤੱਕ, ਡ੍ਰੇਪਰੀ, ਪੇਂਟਿੰਗਸ ਤੋਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਡੈਕੋਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਅਸੈਸਰੀਜ਼ ਤੱਕ, ਤੁਸੀਂ SK ਹੋਮ ਡਿਜ਼ਾਈਨਸ ਦੀਆਂ ਪ੍ਰੋਫੈਸ਼ਨਲ ਸਰਵਿਸਿਜ਼ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਸੁਪਨਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਘਰ ਨੂੰ ਹਕੀਕਤ 'ਚ ਬਦਲ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ। ਕੰਟੈਕਟ ਕਰੋ ਸੰਦੀਪ ਕੌਰ 6048259295।
Once again, welcome back to the program. We are today talking to Wristen and also Nikhil Prakash, who have taken the initiative to create awareness in the society regarding environmental issues and also especially the increasing debris in the ocean. Let's continue with the discussion. So before the break, you talked about the tsunami debris which is coming from Japan, the tsunami which came over there. So now, because it's coming to the shores of BC and also in the oceans also, of course, there must be huge amounts of debris. So what is being done? Is anything being done by the government of BC and looking into this, or only some organizations like yours are thinking about it?
Well, there are several organizations working on it. I can't say that the government of BC is working actively on it. This is what they've done so far. You'll probably have heard that Japan gave us $1 million to work on the tsunami debris issue. The government is holding that money to compensate anybody who goes out and does a cleanup and then has to pay, fees to dispose of the stuff at a landfill site. They've also set up a test site, but it's unfortunately not in an area that's bringing in much debris, so they're not learning a great deal there. So there are a couple of organizations, the Great Canadian Shoreline Cleanup, Surf Rider Organization, and ourselves, who are working on very specifically motivating volunteers to go out and helping organize them so that we can go out, find out what's there, and record it properly so that we know exactly what impacts have happened on our beaches.
Right.
And then get it off the beach and get it put away. And there's all manner of debris coming in. Styrofoam was kind of the first wave, and that's building up very badly on the beaches. We expect all manner of plastics to come in. There's concern particularly about the soft plastics like balloons and other soft malleable plastics. Animals get entangled in these or swallow them so easily, and it completely prevents digestion once they've got them in their stomachs.
And do you think this is going to continue for some more years to follow, or
It
it's
will
just going to be
be-
like now only?
No, it's more likely to be several years. What's
Okay.
coming in now in bulk is the light stuff that floats on the surface that the
Right.
wind is blowing along. But there are other plastics and other kinds of debris that are submerged a bit beneath the water,
Okay.
and they're coming on the ocean currents.
Right.
So probably for the next 2-3 years, we can expect to see much larger volumes of waste than we have before.
Nikhil, like you go and talk to the youngsters and especially the elementary school students where you're trying to create awareness. So this project of yours, in how many schools is it now being used, and also are you planning for something big also whereby involving the community also in this?
What we call our project is Project Flow, and we do it in the feeder schools for Burnaby North, so that's about 3, 4, maybe 5 elementary schools.
Right.
And the way we do it is we go there, and after we inform them a bit about the issues, we want to kind of guide them and mentor them to do their own action projects rather than like forcing upon them what we want them to do. And what these kids do is they do wonderful projects themselves with our
Right.
help. Some of them create awareness through posters and educating the younger kids, because we
Right.
work mostly with grade 6s and 7s. Other kids, they start little cleanups around their school and around their community. So that's how it kind of spreads into the community. And by the time these kids reach high school, because we started it last year, a lot of these kids join Youth for TAP and environmental clubs already because they already know the benefits and why they should be involved.
Okay.
Our plans are to create our own Youth for TAP water bottle, because if people have access to a water bottle for cheap, they can use it instead of buying plastic bottles. And we're looking to expand the club to other high schools, because then they can work on their feeder schools,
Right.
and it'll be easier for the club to go from there.
Okay. And Karen, when we talk about drinking water from the tap and from a plastic bottle, how safe is it to drink from a plastic bottle? Because we want clean water, that's what we are thinking of, that we are getting safe and clean water in the plastic bottle. Is it really safe?
Well, it depends on the bottled water, it's true. The bottled water isn't regulated the same way the tap water is. So in a major city like Vancouver, we're pretty well served. You know, we've got good filtration, we've got experts who are looking after the water quality. The bottled water may not be subject to those same considerations depending where it's bottled. So I really don't want to pan the whole bottled water industry and
Right.
say don't drink it. But the other consideration is you really should be drinking water that comes from your own watershed. You know, when we start exporting it all around the world, we're
Right.
depriving watersheds of water that they need. So there's some benefit to thinking about using tap water and you know, making sure it's filtered properly, especially for people who have illnesses.
I was reading somewhere that if you keep that bottled water, the plastic water bottle in a car, for example, and if there is heat and you, that also the toxins can go into the water. Is it true?
It's true. That water can get really hot when the sun shines on the car. You know how hot
Right.
the car can get on the inside. So the water gets that hot. The soft plastic in the bottles can cause chemicals in the plastic to leach into the water. And leaving that aside, if there's any bacteria at all in the water, and most water has it, even if it's been filtered, that bacteria is going to grow in the heat. So
Right.
it
So
could
it
be
can
a
be
pretty nasty
dangerous.
soup by the time you come back to it.
Right. Towards the end, what would be your message, especially to the youngsters? Why should be they a part of this movement?
I think they should be part of the movement because it's a great way to get involved in the community and really work with not only your school, but other schools and elementary schools in your community.
Right.
And basically you're doing your part as well as trying to inspire others to do their part as well. And I think that's a really important thing to do, especially in your high school years.
Wonderful. Thank you and best wishes. And what would you say towards the end? Why should the people be aware now and be a part of these kind of movements?
Well, you know, There are different things that motivate people. The seafood, the whales, I mean, the whole web of life in the ocean depends on us keeping it clean.
Right.
The oxygen we breathe comes out of this ocean. It's so critical for life that, you know, you've just got to stop and think twice. Isn't it worth it to me to either refuse this plastic in the first place or at least put it in the recycling?
Absolutely. And even small steps a common man takes will make a lot of difference.
Huge
It
difference.
was a pleasure having you both. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.